reaching the South Pole is almost impossible. This is the long list of those who set out to explore Antarctica and be the first to step foot on the South Pole. But during this journey, they lost their lives. Humans have been trying to enter the South Pole for over 100 years, but no one has been able to even come close to it, and those who tried have even gone too close. So, just like we saw in that list, he disappeared in the middle of the journey. Interestingly enough, this white desert of Antarctica, which has been completely frozen for the last 70 million years, only came into the view and awareness of humans about 200 years ago. Just try to imagine, when the British were ruling India at that time, the world had not even laid eyes upon this mysterious land. In the history books, Antarctica is the last page that no one has turned until the end. Ordinary airplanes and helicopters are not even permitted to fly over Antarctica because they face certain conditions due to safety concerns. The same goes for ships and cruises. What is particularly noteworthy is that, in stark contrast, in the opposite corner of the world, at the North Pole, including Greenland, Iceland, and parts of Russia, there are still approximately 4 million people living there, a thriving community. Meanwhile, there is absolutely no permanent human population residing here in Antarctica. As a matter of fact, amazingly, there aren't even animals living across the entire land area. Even the thick-furred, resilient polar bears, which are known for their ability to withstand cold, can't survive in Antarctica. If you were to look here today, you would only find penguins and seals, and they predominantly roam along the seashore. There are only a handful of scientific research bases established here because it is often said that this desolate land has only two things: silence and questions. Questions that perpetually arise in the minds of explorers, but answers are always buried beneath the thick layer of ice. For instance, how is this place so incredibly cold and inhospitable when there used to be a dense forest here? Or why does NASA continue to come here on numerous occasions to search for something? And perhaps the biggest question of all, if this is just an icy place, then why are there sightings here without any explanation? Now, let us take a closer look at this intriguing region. In a latest report from 2024, it was astonishingly discovered that hidden beneath the massive ice sheet of Antarctica, there are 511 billion barrels of oil hidden, which is the largest oil reserve in the world after the Middle East. Yet, even after this groundbreaking news, the powerful nations of the world have not rushed to lay claim to it as they did in the Middle East. Why is that? What specifically makes Antarctica the deadliest place in the world? Why have so many people lost their lives trying to reach its center? So friends, today let us turn the last page of history and break the lock of all the secrets buried under this cold grave and see what is hidden in this biggest secret world of this world. So, 2,000 years ago, philosophers like Aristotle and Ptolemy had already imagined the existence of a large landmass at the extreme south of the Earth, because there must be some big piece of land to balance the islands in the north. This mysterious land, which was the subject of everyone's imagination, was given the Latin name Terra Australis Incognita, meaning the unknown southern land. Now, in 1520, a famous Portuguese explorer named Ferdinand Magellan reached very far down to the tip of South America and saw a passage. After that, he saw a lot of icebergs. But, as you can see, they were still quite far from Antarctica. And then, in 1773, a British explorer, Captain James, went a little further and became the first person to cross the Antarctic Circle. He definitely got very close to Antarctica. But they never got to see the land of Antarctica. They could only see large mountains built of ice, stretching far and wide. And that's why they turned back. And then, in 1820, a Russian explorer named Fabian Gottlieb von Bellingshausen revealed to the world for the first time that a whole continent was hidden beneath the high ice-covered cliffs that could be seen from afar in the south. This continent is built on mountain-like rocks that are 2,500 meters above sea level. That's why James Cook also missed it. Even today, Antarctica is considered the highest continent in the world. But how do you climb such high cliffs? First, where do you even land? Your ship. Because there was no beach-like area here, just thick glaciers everywhere, meaning it was all just ice. In addition to that, the freezing strong winds and high waves would change in an instant. The weather and the freezing cold, all these conditions played such a role that Fabian had to make an immediate U-turn and return. After Fabian, there wasn't much progress in exploration for about 50 to 60 years because all the explorers and captains who tried to take their ships there faced difficulties. So either they fall victim to the storms of the sea or to the freezing cold and hunger, and they return. Look at this picture. It was taken in 1904, showing these three Antarctic explorers, Captain Robert Scott, Shackleton, and Wilson. They took this picture after returning from their 3-year-long Antarctic mission in which they failed. The picture doesn't quite capture how bad their condition had become. Their faces and bodies were covered in wounds, cuts, bruises, and swelling. Their lips had turned permanently black. The South Pole puts these sailors through such a harsh test that no one is ever really prepared for it. In fact, in Scott's case, the situation became so desperate that the crew members had to eat their own sled dogs to survive. But this failure didn't demotivate Scott. The mystery of Antarctica seemed to lure him in. After this mission, he resolved that he would set foot on Antarctic soil no matter what. And not just that, but he would also plant his country's flag at the very center of Antarctica, the South Pole. Achieving this became the ultimate purpose of his life. Finally, in 1911, after a long journey of 1 year, Robert Scott and his 4 crew members reached Antarctica. From there, they bravely faced extreme storms and blizzards, and they finally set foot on the South Pole. This was going to be a historic moment, the realization of Scott's lifelong dream of being the first to reach there. But as soon as they arrived, unfortunately, they saw that a Norwegian flag was already planted there. A Norwegian polar explorer, Roald Amundsen, and his team had completed the journey to the South Pole just a month earlier with better planning and preparation. Roald Amundsen had beaten Robert Scott and became the first person to touch the South Pole. What happened next revealed the true colors of Antarctica to the world. In despair, exhausted and defeated, Robert Scott and his team got caught in a massive snowstorm while returning to their ship, and all 11 of them perished there. And the list I showed you at the beginning also mentions Robert Scott's mission, the Rano expedition, in which all those explorers were buried in the ice forever. The whole world had understood that surviving for just a few days there is even more challenging than the difficulty of landing in Antarctica. The BBC referred to Antarctica, Barpool, as a frozen graveyard in an article published in 2020 because Robert Scott's body is just one among many bodies of unfinished and field expedition sailors. Even today, many bodies are buried in the crevices and glaciers of Antarctica that have never been found, and not many people have gone looking for them. Now, if you pay a little attention to these cases, you'll notice some repeating patterns, such as explorers getting lost in storms, or blizzards, starvation, or dying of hunger, ships breaking apart and getting stuck in the ice. These events are repeating over and over again. To understand why this is happening, we need to comprehend Antarctica's unique geography and the laws that make it different from the North Pole. First of all, there's a lot of ice at the South Pole. Today, compared to the North Pole, 90% of the world's ice, let me repeat, 90% of the world's ice is in Antarctica. In fact, 70% of the world's fresh water is also stored in the ice of Antarctica. And that's why the average temperature in Antarctica drops from minus 40 degrees Celsius to minus 90 degrees Celsius, while the average temperature in the Arctic only ranges from 0 degrees to minus 40 degrees Celsius. For this reason, even though you can find land mammals like Arctic hares, foxes, reindeer, oxen, polar bears, and even rabbits and ships at the North Pole, none of these exist at the South Pole. Another unique thing is that the snowstorms we've heard about repeatedly. No, the storms here are unlike anything you see anywhere else in the world. Look at this. This is a normal hurricane storm. These storms bring massive destruction. In these storms, wind speeds are only around 100 to 150 kilometers per hour. In Antarctica, on the other hand, the winds can easily blow at speeds of 200 to 300 kilometers per hour. So, why do such strong winds blow in Antarctica? There's an interesting reason behind it. Look, no matter where you go on Earth, you'll find that the sky is colder than the ground. For example, if the ground temperature in Mumbai city is 20 degrees Celsius, then the temperature in the sky can go down to minus 40 degrees Celsius. What happens is that the warm air from below rises against gravity to the upper atmospheric layers, creating slow winds. This is the case everywhere on Earth. But Antarctica is a unique place where the ground is actually colder than the sky. And because gravity also pushes these winds down, they accelerate violently downward and start spreading across the entire Antarctic plateau with stormy pressure. And that's the reason why snow blizzards are seen so frequently in Antarctica. And researchers and workers literally have to hold onto a rope line to navigate. Moreover, because the cold wind doesn't retain moisture, the entire continent is extremely dry, almost close to 0% humidity. This is why Antarctica sucks out all the moisture from human bodies in one go, and due to dehydration, the exposed skin gets frostbite in just a few seconds. If precautions are not taken, the affected part will turn black and become lifeless within minutes. Something like this. One thing, just watch this clip. What do you see far and wide? Nothing at all, right? The sky is white, the fog is white, and the ground is also white. This is called a whiteout, and in such conditions, a traveler completely loses their sense of direction. Round and round it keeps rotating in one place only. And if you don't know where you're going, you'll fall straight into an icy grave, because that's what it's called to see. Though it may seem like a flat crack in appearance, the thing about it is its depth. On average, these crevasses can be 65 to 100 feet deep, which means if you accidentally step here, you'll fall straight down 100 feet into a snow grave. The most concerning thing is that there are so many crevasses in Antarctica, and many of them you won't even be able to see or recognize before you step on them, because they are covered by layers of snow on top. These crevasses are a major reason why many explorers who didn't return from Antarctica have never been found. It's as if they just vanished. Just as it's difficult for humans to navigate here, that it's equally challenging and risky for airplanes. Commercial flights avoid flying over Antarctica on tow, and only those flights come here that are shuttling researchers and experiments or delivering goods to them. Dense fog, unpredictable climate, and strong winds cause turbulence because it's close to the poles. So, due to magnetic fluctuations, navigation gets disrupted, and the absence of any safety landing stations here, including refueling stations, are some major reasons for this. Online companies find it risky to operate here. But now this question must have come to your mind, that if Antarctica is so dangerous, then how come so many people are visiting there comfortably and making amazing blocks? So many cruises keep going for Antarctic expeditions. If you look back at the 1990s, only about 5,000 tourists used to visit Antarctica each year. Today, do you know how much that number has increased? 1 lakh, and full credit goes to it. Our advancements heck in navigation, engineering, and science and technology. But even after all this, the window for visiting Antarctica is still only 3 to 4 months long. Between November and March, as this is when Antarctica becomes somewhat livable with temperatures ranging from 15 to 20 degrees Celsius. This means that during this time, if you go out with proper protection, your face will not get frostbite. These eyes won't freeze either, because during these days, it's daylight for a full 24 hours. There's no night at all. Actually, the day and night cycle in Antarctica, as well as the seasonal cycle, is quite interesting because it's located right at the poles. That's why there are 6 months of day and 6 months of night. Why is that? Because our Earth is tilted 23.5 degrees from our axis, and it revolves around the sun, as you know. Due to this tilt, the northern tip of the Earth pops out in the direction of the sun for 6 months, and then the southern tip pops out in the direction of the sun for 6 months. Now the part that pops out has a continuous day and also has the summer season, and its opposite side is away from the sun. It is on the darkness shadow side, so it has polar, night, and winter seasons. Technically speaking, except for those 3 to 6 months, for us, every month is winter in Antarctica because either there will be a dim sunset or it will be completely pitch dark. During Antarctic winters, it gets so dark that if you hold your hand right in front of your eyes, you still won't be able to see it. Total pitch black.
It's 9 in the morning and it's polar night. So it looks like this all day long, 24/7, for a bit more than 2 months.
Because half of the time the moon isn't even there. Plus, especially during the winter months of July and August, temperatures here can drop to minus 10 degrees Celsius. Combined with Mopin or winds of 200 kilometers per hour and Fupi, blizzards, how can any human survive here? According to official records, only a few thousand people live in Antarctica during the winters, and all of them are scientists and researchers. Their research bases are shielded and protected in this way, and during winters, they are completely covered in snow, from which the snow then has to be dug out and cleared using a machine. Now, the US has really done an amazing job there. They designed their main Antarctic research station in such a way that food and drinks are available for these capable researchers 24 hours a day, all year round, even in remote locations like Antarctica. Look, this is the research station, and the largest town in Antarctica, the US's McMurdo Research Station. Here, every summer, 500 to 1,000 people work. There are ATMs right here. Hospitals and medical facilities are also convenient for stores and research labs. The comfortable rooms, gym set is also the only waste management facility on the entire continent at this station, where they filter, process, and recycle the entire town's waste. Now consider this as a kind of compulsion to do so, as US supplies come to make Modo only once a year, in which perishable items like year-round ration and meat are supplied together. I mean, if you have to feed 1,000 people for the whole year, just think about how big a warehouse you need to keep stocked. Some waste is recycled and reused, but all the waste that is not reusable is collected and dumped into cargo ships bound for the US. That gets disposed of in the US. Or if the liquid waste is grey water, it is released directly into the ocean. This does not cause Antarctic land plot. Now, all of this is basic facility stuff, but in today's times, there's one more thing that has become very basic. Internet in the isolated white land of Antarctica. Is there internet available here? Are there commercial Earth satellites here which don't even revolve around? The availability here is not like how we use the internet. Isn't it great? During the day, there's only a 4 to 5 hour window when the Iridium satellites pass by Antarctica. These satellites basically provide satellite calling and email services, but at limited speeds.
So it's not the best speed, you're not talking about streaming Netflix or downloading videos, but it does give a pretty stable internet connection.
So in Gun, sending a single email here costs 3. So while we can easily chat on WhatsApp and Instagram here, that's definitely not possible for them over there. They are totally cut off from the internet. It's mainly made available only for scientists so that they can safely upload their research data daily. Now, to support the activities and infrastructure of such a big town, where does the power, meaning electricity, come from? Well, the US set up a nuclear power plant here during the Cold War in 1962 to meet the energy needs of the McMurdo station. But due to the cold vents and weather here, its structure started getting damaged and the nuclear energy started leaking and finally giving up It was shut down after 10 years of operation. Due to the fear of nuclear contamination, all of Antarctica's energy needs are met solely through diesel supply. So, facing all these risks and being cut off from the rest of the world, what exactly are these scientists researching? What impact is Antarctica having on the Earth's climate? How the melting is contributing to the rise in global sea levels? And what impact is it going to have on the Earth in the future? How have the unique animals and organisms of Antarctica evolved to survive in such extreme environments? How did Antarctica become white? Once green 35 million years ago, now white. And finally, the most important and surprising aspect is that from Antarctica, we are trying to understand the true nature of the dark universe. The picture of a black hole, that the world saw for the first time in 2019 would not have been possible without the South Pole telescope located in Antarctica. Many scientists say that Antarctica is the best spot in the whole Earth for astronomical research because, as we discussed, that Antarctica is the driest area on the planet. Now, water molecules actually disturb the waves, and they're signals coming from the space, which creates niceness in observation. And in Antarctica, these disturbances are not created at all, and a very clear view is obtained, and all the scientists can directly answer the big questions like what is dark matter and dark energy? How did the universe start from a small point and turn into such a huge structure? What secrets of the universe are hidden by the big stars situated far away? Research is being done here on these. Now, you can see on the screen what current research is being prioritized at the Antarctic research bases. I will also provide links to these official websites and our detailed research in the description below. So if you want to do independent research, you can check those links. Recently, in news from 2024, it was found that beneath the massive ice sheets of Antarctica, there are hidden oil reserves amounting to 500 billion barrels, making it the largest oil reserve in the world after the Middle East. So, are scientists of all countries unofficially working on this? Are all the powerful countries trying to claim these resources in Antarctica through international politics and establish their control over these territories? Yes, there is plenty of oil here, beneath almost 5 kilometers of thick ice in Antarctica. But the thing is, none of this matters, because after the Antarctic Treaty and Environmental Protection Treaty came into effect in 1959, all nations have to follow strict laws and protocols. Because of this treaty, no country can conduct any drilling, mining, or commercial activities on Antarctic land. So no country can even think of tampering with those oil reserves. The reason behind this is simple. Since 90% of the ice is on this continent, if all the countries greedily start mining there, the ice will begin to melt and ocean levels will rise, the consequences of which the entire world will have to face. You can see some major points of this International Antarctic Treaty on the screen. Only scientific research-related activities are allowed in Antarctica, and the findings from that research will also be made public. No military from any country can set foot here, and Antarctica will remain a free continent where no country can claim territory. And under this, we will not perform any activities that disturb or destroy Antarctica's biodiversity. Bikinjantica is an extremely closed and isolated ecosystem, and there are strict rules that must be followed, one on a large scale. The International Association of Antarctica Tour Operators has issued a don't pack best policy, which means that we are not allowed to take any bacteria or even microorganisms to Antarctica. This means your clothes, shoes, luggage, everything will have to be sterilized. It is not allowed to kneel down before stepping onto the ground of Antarctica or before stepping off the ground of Antarctica during your shift. So if you want to lie down in the snow and make a fun snow angel, and that's on your bucket list, forget about it. You can't even dump urine on the ground there. In fact, everyone collects their pee in bottles or urine bags and brings it back to the ship. Tour operators only show tourists a few nearby attractions and then bring them back to the ships. No one goes to the interior regions of Antarctica. Don't even think about entering there or reaching the South Pole. So it is almost impossible was for a common man. There are so many restrictions because Antarctica's ecosystem is a very fragile and sensitive ecosystem. In this small ecosystem, if even a single pathogen or microorganism accidentally enters, it can affect the local animals and living species, potentially causing unwanted mutations. In a BBC interview in 2024, Antarctic ecologist Diana Workstrom mentioned that some foreign virus species have already reached the South Shetland Islands of Antarctica, and a specific type of avian flu has started spreading across all Antarctic islands, causing seals and birds to fall ill.
A deadly bird flu has spread to the region, and several hundred penguins have been killed. Samples from 2 penguins confirm the spread of the avian influenza virus.
Because in the Antarctic, all ecosystems are interconnected. Even a small mistake there can create a butterfly or domino effect, which can ultimately lead to rising water levels and potentially submerge the rest of the world. That's why it's called a ticking time bomb. And scientists want to be extra cautious with Antarctica because it has been accumulating for millions of years. And the ice freezes everything. Among its thick permafrost layers, scientists are 100% sure many unknown ancient virus species may be frozen there. These viruses are also called zombie viruses. And if this permafrost or ice melts, they can infect various types of animals, causing mutations and diseases. However, the viruses we have found so far, like the one discovered in 2014, the Pithovirus ibericum, is a 30,000-year-old ancient virus that was found in Siberia. And just recently in 2023, we found the Pandora virus Doma 1, 40,000, a 500-year-old virus. These mostly infect amoebas. But in Antarctica, permafrost may contain thousands, even millions of such viruses, some of which could potentially affect normal animals and humans. Take the Himalayas as an example, which, compared to Antarctica, covers a much smaller area, yet we have found up to 1,700 new virus species buried in the ice there. And that's why we must keep Antarctica, free from politics and human interference at all costs. Today, an ordinary person can reach Antarctica but cannot live there. Perhaps this is nature's way of telling us that you are guests here, not owners. There is no permanent population in Antarctica, not a destination, but a test. There is no proof, reason. Here, only those survive who do not fight nature but learn to flow with it, because this place truly tests the limits of human endurance, not just their courage. It is much more difficult to conquer Antarctica than just to reach it, because this is not just land. This is a passion that only accepts those who are ready to open themselves up and live here.